Please stand as you are able for the Holy Gospel according to St. Luke. Some Sadducees, those who say there is no resurrection, came to Jesus and asked him a question. "Teacher, Moses wrote for us that if a man's brother dies, leaving a wife but no children, the man shall marry the widow and raise up children for his brother. Now there were 7 brothers. The first married and died childless, then the second and the third married her, and so in the same way all 7 died childless. Finally the woman also died. In the resurrection, therefore, whose wife will the woman be? For the 7 had married her." Jesus said to them, "Those who belong to this age marry and are given in marriage, but those who are considered worthy of a place in that age and in the resurrection from the dead neither marry nor are given in marriage. Indeed, they cannot die anymore, because they are like angels and are children of God, being children of the resurrection. And the fact that the dead are raised, Moses himself showed in the story about the bush, where he speaks of the Lord as the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. Now he is God not of the dead, but of the living, for to him all of them are alive." Then some of the scribes answered, "Teacher, you have spoken well," for they no longer dared to ask him another question. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Christ.
Please be seated. Which Packers team was better? The 1997 or the 2011 Super Bowl champs? I'm sure there could be a nice little debate going about that one. Which was the better British invasion rock band, Bill? The Beatles or the Rolling Stones? You can think about it. There you go. Which season of the year is better? Spring or fall? You might ask questions like these while you're hanging out with your friends, kind of hypothetical questions where you share your opinions, you share your reasoning, and very often there's not a clear answer. And that's okay. The answers are kind of beside the point. The point is to have a bit of fun, to grow your friendship. Then there are the kind of hypothetical questions that are not about fun and friendship at all. And that's what's happening in today's reading from Luke's Gospel. The Sadducees ask Jesus a hypothetical question because they're trying to trap him, to play gotcha. Why? Because the Sadducees were people of influence, and they didn't like how Jesus was influencing the common person in their temple, as Jesus taught there about how to connect with God. The hypothetical question they ask is kind of in the category of how many angels can dance on the head of a pin? Right? It's an absurd question. It doesn't really have an answer, and the answer doesn't really matter. But to frame their question, they appeal to Moses, whom everybody looked up to, and they appeal to the law of Moses. They ask a hypothetical question about the practice of levirate marriage, described in Deuteronomy 25, where if a man died leaving a wife but no children, and the children, would one day grow up and be expected to provide for their mother, then the deceased man's brother was supposed to marry the widow. Now, when we hear about something like that, it sounds very strange and really not even a good idea. But in the days of Moses, it functioned basically as a social safety net for widows who had very few rights or resources in their culture. By the time of Jesus, levirate marriage was not commonly practiced anymore, but still, this group of Sadducees wanted to make Jesus look foolish by asking him this question. Instead, the answer Jesus gives, he operates with a deeper wisdom that points beyond the absurdity of their question. In his answer, Jesus says, one, yes, there is a resurrection, and two, no, levirate marriage will not be a thing in heaven. Furthermore, in the age to come, death itself will be no more. So you will see your departed spouse, your departed family members again, because they live in God. But these Sadducees miss the point because they're assuming that resurrection life is simply life as we know it, going on as we know it, the same old for eternity. Jesus is saying their assumptions are leading them astray. Even though we can and do try to describe what resurrection life will be like, it is really beyond what we as humans are even able to describe. Except to say that whatever kind of life we're used to now, life in the resurrection will be a different kind of life, and it will be a better quality of life because we will be fully in the presence of the living God. With his answer, Jesus points us to the grace of God who does marvelous things. And Jesus leads us into a cloud of mystery where we can only see dimly. And if we want to move forward, we can only do so by faith, one little step at a time. We don't have to wait for life in the resurrection in order to live in a cloud of mystery now, however. The present time is also a time of great unknowns, just of a different sort. Many of us are living with loss and grief of many different kinds. Loss of a spouse or family member or friend, loss of health or activity level, loss of relationships or expectations, loss of a job or goals or plans, even the loss of a time when we assumed that almost everybody went to church. And the list could go on. Losses happen even in normal times. But then when you factor in all the upheaval and confusion and unknowns we've lived through, especially in the last 3 years, we have all been through a lot. Almost everyone is struggling in some way. Almost everyone has lost something or someone. Loss is what makes you feel sad. But we don't always like to admit when we feel sad. And sadness that is unacknowledged often leaks out of us and onto other people in the form of anger or irritation or frustration. It is so important for us as people of faith that we learn how to grieve our losses and that we take the time to grieve our losses, not letting them pile up so that stress and discouragement grow too big to handle. Instead, you can grieve as you go in real time to admit, yes, this is something I feel sad about. Yes, I have experienced a loss. And as I grieve what I have lost, I want to ask our faithful God to carry my losses with me so they don't feel quite so heavy anymore. All Saints Sunday is a great day to stop and remember that even when we grieve, we do not grieve as those who have no hope. And it's a great day to stop and reconnect with the faithfulness of God, who walked with the saints of blessed memory and who walks with us and with all the saints that we know and love today. The losses and struggles, the reversals and griefs we have been through are real. But God promises that they do not have the final say. The risen Jesus has the final say. He is our hope. He is our Redeemer. You belong to Him. And through faith, with God's love, one day you can get to that point where you can join the saint we know as Job, who knew more than a little about grief and loss. You can join Job in singing a new song. I know that my Redeemer lives. Amen.